There comes a time in life, usually around 60, when you stop chasing answers and start seeing the lessons that were always there. It's the moment when experience begins to speak louder than ambition, and peace begins to matter more than perfection. And that's when you realize life itself is the greatest school you'll ever attend. When we're young, we spend years sitting in classrooms, memorizing facts, and chasing grades. We're told that education will prepare us for the real world. But the truth is, the real lessons begin long after the classrooms end. They begin in heartbreak, in failure, in silence, and in the moments when life doesn't go as planned. After 60, you start to look back, and you see it clearly. Every mistake was a teacher. Every loss carried a hidden message. Every challenge carved strength into your soul. And you realize no school could ever have taught you that. At 60, you understand that wisdom isn't about how much you know. It's about how deeply you've lived. It's not found in books, but in the pages of your own story. The ones written with tears, laughter, and courage. When you were younger, you thought happiness came from achievement, from success, from recognition, from being somebody in the world. But now you see happiness is much quieter. It lives in peace of mind, in simplicity, and contentment. It's in the early morning light that falls through your window, in a cup of tea shared with a friend, in the calmness of your own company. Life teaches you that peace is the highest form of intelligence. When you were younger, you might have been quick to react, to argue, to prove your point, to hold on to things that hurt. But now, after years of living and learning, you know that silence is often the wiser response. You no longer need to win every argument, because you've learned the value of inner peace over outer validation. You've discovered that maturity has nothing to do with age, and everything to do with understanding. And that understanding comes only through living, through walking through fire and coming out gentler, not harder. By 60, life has humbled you. You've seen how unpredictable it can be, how people you loved can change, how health can fade, how dreams can shift. You've lost things you never thought you'd lose, and survived things you never thought you could. And through it all, life has been teaching you, not in words, but in experience. You've learned that holding grudges poisons your own soul. You've learned that forgiveness isn't saying what you did was okay, but saying I choose peace over pain. You've learned that love isn't about possession, it's about appreciation. And you've learned that sometimes walking away is the most loving thing you can do, for yourself and for others. No classroom could have prepared you for the lessons of letting go of people, letting go of expectations, letting go of the version of yourself you thought you were supposed to be. But life teaches you that letting go doesn't mean losing. It means freeing yourself to live. And once you reach 60, you start to notice something magical. You begin to see beauty in simplicity again. The same sunrise you once ignored now feels like a blessing. The same moments that once seemed small now hold deep meaning. Because you've learned to slow down, to stop running toward the next thing, and start being grateful for this thing. You no longer crave noise, chaos, or attention. You crave peace. You crave authenticity. You crave stillness, the kind that allows you to hear your own heart again. And that's one of life's most profound lessons. That stillness is not emptiness. It's clarity. It's where you meet yourself again after decades of being everything for everyone else. You also realize that comparison was a thief that stole so many years of joy. When you were younger, you compared your journey, your looks, your success to others. But now, you understand that everyone's path unfolds at its own pace. No one is ahead or behind. We're all just walking our own roads, learning our own lessons. After 60, you finally stop competing and start living. You begin to celebrate others without feeling less. You start to find joy in giving instead of receiving. And you realize that kindness, not achievement, is the true mark of wisdom. Life teaches you to be patient, not just with others, but with yourself. You stop rushing your healing, your growth, your dreams. You begin to understand that everything unfolds when it's meant to. That the flower doesn't bloom by fighting the rain, it blooms by trusting the process. And so do you. You also begin to see aging differently. You no longer see it as losing youth, but as gaining clarity. Your wrinkles are not flaws, they're reminders of laughter, of tears, of survival. Each line tells a story that textbooks could never teach. You realize that the body may grow older, but the spirit only grows freer. There's a kind of confidence that comes with age, a quiet grace that doesn't need to prove anything anymore. You've earned the right to live on your own terms, gently, truthfully, peacefully. At 60 and beyond, you understand that not everything has to make sense. Sometimes closure never comes. Sometimes the lesson is just learning to move forward without understanding why. And that's okay. Because acceptance, that's one of life's highest lessons. It doesn't come from books or teachers. It comes from surrender, from learning to trust life, even when you can't control it. And perhaps one of the most powerful lessons life teaches after 60 is gratitude. You begin to see how much you already have, how much beauty surrounds you, even in the simplest of things. You realize that gratitude doesn't just make you happier, it makes you wiser. Because it shifts your focus from what's missing to what's already here. You start each day with a little more appreciation for breath, for health, for time. Because you've lived long enough to know that these things are not guaranteed. They are gifts, and that's what life teaches you, that every single moment matters. That joy is not in what's next, but in what's now. At this age, you may find yourself alone more often, and that's not something to fear. Solitude isn't loneliness, it's freedom. It's the space where you meet your truest self. You learn to enjoy your own company, to listen to your thoughts without judgment, to nurture your spirit in peace. You discover that the world outside may slow down, but the world inside grows infinitely richer. You start writing, gardening, reading, reflecting, doing things that bring quiet joy. And you realize that contentment was never in doing more, but in being more present. You no longer seek validation, because you've already lived enough to know your worth. You don't need applause, you just need peace. You don't need more things, you just need meaning. And you don't need to be understood, you just need to be authentic, because at 60 and beyond, authenticity becomes your power. You speak truthfully, live gently, and love without fear. You stop pretending, you stop explaining, you stop rushing. You simply live, fully, freely, peacefully, and isn't that what life was trying to teach us all along? That the point was never perfection, it was presence. That the goal was never to win, it was to grow. That wisdom was never found in knowing more, but in needing less. So yes, life teaches you more after 60 than any school ever could. Because by then you've failed and risen, loved and lost, dreamed and accepted. You've lived enough to know that wisdom doesn't come from age. It comes from awareness. And awareness only comes from truly living. So to everyone listening right now, whether you're 60, 70, or just beginning your journey, remember this: life is not a race. It's a lesson. And every single day you're being taught something new. About love, patience, resilience, and grace. If you're over 60, you are not at the end. You are at the height of wisdom. You are at the point in life where everything finally begins to make sense. The noise fades, the heart softens, and the soul begins to shine. You've learned that what's meant for you will always find its way. Not when you chase, but when you allow. You are living proof that wisdom doesn't come from books. It comes from living through storms and still choosing to see the sunrise. It comes from losing people and still choosing to love. It comes from breaking down and still choosing to get up. That is wisdom. That is strength. That is what life has been teaching you all along. So wherever you are in your journey, take a deep breath. Be proud of your story, the mistakes, the memories, the lessons. They're all yours, and they've all shaped the incredible person you've become. And always remember, you are not getting older. You are getting wiser. You are not fading. You are evolving. You are not slowing down. You are finally living in rhythm with what truly matters. This is your friend from 70 Voice of Wisdom, and I want to remind you, your life is your greatest teacher. Every season, every challenge, every joy is shaping you into someone more peaceful, more kind, and more aware. If this message touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to 70 Voice of Wisdom. Here, we honor the lessons of time, the beauty of aging, and the quiet strength that grows from experience. Join this community, where wisdom speaks softly, truth feels comforting, and every story reminds us that growing older is the most beautiful part of living. Because here, at 70 Voice of Wisdom, we believe one simple truth. The older you grow, the clearer life becomes. And when you finally stop rushing through it, you realize life has been your greatest teacher all along.